Pittsburgh Steelers fans, what is up? I am back. This is Jeff Hartman, editor of BehindTheSteelCurtain.com. You couldn't get rid of me forever. I mean, I came back after a week. It was a great vacation. I got actually a couple emails. But you know what? The thing is that I'm super proud of the guy that's co-hosting the Standard with me today. It's not Lance Williams. It's his turn to be on vacation. So Dave Schofield, the fill-in guy, is here with me. Dave, I just want to tell you, super proud of you, man. You did a tremendous job keeping things on lockdown while I was gone. How's it going this afternoon?
It's going all right. I'm tired of all this heat we have going on, man. This is not good for a big guy. You come back from the beach and it's probably hotter here than it was there.
It actually was, yeah. I mean, but we had temperatures in the 90s, but when you're standing next to the ocean, you get that nice breeze. It's not as bad, but this is sweltering heat for sure. So hopefully, wherever you're listening to this, you're inside, you're sitting back and getting ready to listen to a bunch of, nice Pittsburgh Steelers talk and nothing else. That's what it's like. And real quick, Ty says looking pretty tan. Thank you very much. I enjoy being outside in the sun, and I'm a beach bum, so I enjoyed the week off. Let's get right to things. The title of this episode is Bold Predictions for the Steelers Training Camp. Steelers training camp starts this week. They report on Thursday. They do their stupid run test, which since they've had Casey Hampton off the roster has pretty much been a non-factor. And then Friday is the first official practice. Correct me if I'm wrong, Dave, and maybe you don't know this. Is Saturday the first public practice or is it Friday?
I'm pretty sure Friday is the first public practice, but the first padded practice is on Sunday.
Sunday.
Yes.
Yeah, so that's the old the CBA they have to have so many practices in before they get the pads on, and so it's kind of a tease. They report and then they practice sort of. You get a lot of reports, and then that's when the big boy pads go on Sunday, and that's when they really start to see a lot of information about backs on backers and stuff. Real quick before we get started, when was the last time you were at training camp, Dave?
The last time I was at training camp was never.
You've never been?
I have never been to Latrobe. I've wanted to mention that to you guys in the past. I'm like, I'm just looking for someone else to go. You're going to think I'm weird. I get really anxious going into unfamiliar situations like, where do I drive? Where do I park? How do I work this out? So I've never actually made it to training camp. I've done the Family Fest. When I was a kid, the Steelers used to come down to Frostburg State University and scrimmage the Redskins, who had that as their training camp when I was a kid, and I used to go there and watch the Steelers, but I've never been to Latrobe.
Tell you what, and we're live right now. If you're willing to drive, we can see if Brian, we all live in the same town, if Brian could get a day off, and we should go up. We should pick a day and we should go up, and we could be live reporting from actual Latrobe and give insight and see what we can do.
I would insist on driving. I would definitely drive. But if
I insist on not driving.
No, I don't like to travel unless I'm driving.
Okay.
If I got to drive an hour, if I'm traveling an hour and I'm driving, it feels like a half hour. If I'm riding, it feels like 2.
Okay.
So that's just me. I don't mind driving. I always like driving, but I want someone who knows where to go, what to do, and can tell me what to do for the first time, and then I'll just go from there.
Well, that's going to be Brian. He's been there more recently than I have. It's been a really long time since I've been there, but I want to go back, and so maybe we do that. We're going to get that. I think the fans deserve that, so we're going to try to make that happen. So speaking of Latrobe, Saint Vincent College, here we go. The Steelers are reporting bold predictions. We could go a bunch of different ways with these bold predictions, and it could be a potential camp battle and the result. It could be something like maybe someone making the team that you didn't think would make the team. Okay, so for me, I'm going to go out and here's my first bold prediction, is that I think that James Washington is going to prove his worth during this training camp, and he is going to cement himself as number 2 or number 3 receiver. And if Ali is in the live chat, he's going to chastise me as he always does because he calls me a James Washington fanboy. I just think that this kid has got his head on right. Antonio Brown is gone. He's not in that locker room Juju Smith-Schuster, I think he has much more of an endearing quality to him, more of a team oriented. That's what that room's going to be about. I think James Washington is going to shock a ton of people this season, and he's going to prove that he's going to be, if not number 2, number 3, maybe only behind Dante Moncrief. Before you say yours, what do you think about that?
It's funny because I was leaning about going a very similar way. I think not just James Washington. I'm looking for the receivers to just all come out and just start balling out in camp. That you're going to hear so much about receivers that we're going to question why we ever doubted them in the first place. I think now, will that translate to great play week 1 of the season? I hope.
We're only doing bold prediction for training camp. We're not talking about the season.
Exactly. But I think what we're going to hear about from training camp is, man, look at this wide receiver core. Look at this wide receiver core. So I'm going to kind of piggyback off of that.
Okay.
And my bold prediction, I'll keep it to offense, and then we can move to defense.
Like
My
that.
bold prediction is that one wide receiver will be traded before the start of the season.
Ooh.
Because I think they're going to ball out so well that one of them they'll trade.
Okay, so who do you think gets traded? What's that bold
prediction? No idea. Yeah, I mean, if I had to pick one, I'll go with Eli Rogers. But because I don't think they could trade Switzer again after he's been traded twice so recently. I just think that would just be too much of a red flag. But I think if Eli Rogers comes out, see, it's so hard because you're like, he could play so well, he could get a lot of value. But if he plays so well, why don't you want to keep him? The problem is, I think you're going to see all kinds of guys that are just going to be showing up like crazy.
Well, who's the is it Deontay Spencer? Is that the AAF player that's on the roster a lot of people are talking about? Is that his name? Did I see that?
Deontay Spencer is definitely one of the wide receivers that a lot of people are talking about. He was brought up during the burning question, and out of the receivers, he's who I know probably the least about. I mean, right. I did some research on Johnny Holton. Who knows? He could be a guy that if he plays well enough could be traded. But like I said, he's a guy because of his special teams value that they might want to just keep because of he's more of a DHB. He could be that special teams guy. Then you've got even like Trey Griffey, who was on the practice squad. You got all these guys that, boy, wouldn't it be nice if you just have too many quality guys? Well, and that's what I think could happen.
Yeah. If you're a Steelers diehard fan, like you love this intricate, detailed stuff of the 53-man roster, these are the players that you're going to be keeping an eye on in training camp during the preseason games based on the fact that if Deontay Spencer does really well and they're not sure if they're going to be able to use him, they could potentially put him on the block and say, hey, you need a wide receiver. We have one. Look at what he's doing. Because you're not going to want to get rid of Eli Rogers. They just gave him a new contract. You're not going to want to get rid of Switzer. James Washington is safe. Dante Moncrief is safe. Juju is safe. And Deontay Johnson is safe. That's why we've always said the 6 wide receivers are basically the 6 wide receivers. And, yeah, Johnny Holton will make it, but I don't know if that's going to be the case this year, right?
Yeah, I don't know that he will make it. I'm just saying – there was times last year people were like, oh, they're not going to keep DHB. They got too many other. Who was the one guy that caught a bunch of touchdowns last preseason? They wanted him to keep
Patterson. David Patterson, who actually ended up with the Patriots last year.
Yeah, but people are like, oh, the Steelers will keep him. They've had enough of DHB. I'll tell you, they value that special teams. So don't be surprised if they're kind of reserving that 6th wide receiver and even the 5th guy on game day. That you're only going to use if you go 5 wide, but would be your special teams guy.
This is a really interesting topic because if you think about it, they had Darius Hayward-Bay on the roster last year, active every game because if when healthy.
Yeah.
Because of his special teams play, very rarely saw the field on offense. Not saying he didn't, but he rarely did. Let's look at the 6. Juju Smith-Schuster, not playing special teams.
Nope.
James Washington, not playing special teams most likely. Dante Moncrief, you didn't bring him in to play special teams.
Nope.
Deontay Johnson might be a return man, but that's about it. Okay. Eli Rogers and Ryan
same with
Switzer
the next 2.
They don't have those specific players that are just going to be those gunners. So I actually have to think, what is the plan there? It definitely does throw a wrench. Maybe this is something we talk about in the preview this Friday where we can really dig into it. So I like that. You said a trade. Okay. I'm going to go to defensive side for my next bold prediction and say that Mark Barron and Devin Bush prove their worth early in camp. And what I mean by worth is Mark Barron's hefty contract and Devin Bush's draft position, being trading 10 spots up, getting him 10th overall. That's my bold prediction. I think that a lot of people are kind of wondering, like, what's this going to look like? What's Mark Barron? I think it's going to be very evident very early that they're both going to be able to cover well. They're going to have that sideline to sideline speed that the Steelers have coveted since Ryan Shazier's injury. And I also think that it's going to be a calming presence to the entire defense in terms of a guy like Sean Davis not having to worry so much about what's going on in front of him, can worry more about the deep end, maybe make some more plays. That's my bold prediction that both those two players, Bush and Barron, will actually prove their worth really, really early in training camp.
Man, you just like taking all my ideas, don't you? Because
I
that's
have
a
no
really
idea
good
where
one. So no, I'm gonna and kind of respond to that one. I'm gonna kind of do mine that's almost kind of a piggyback to it. Um, I'm gonna say that we're gonna see in sub packages Williams, Bush, and Barron on the field at the same time. I think you're gonna see Barron maybe as that third safety
yeah,
slash linebacker where they could even there might be sometimes just as I'm not saying they're going to do it in the regular season, but I'm just saying in training camp and possibly the preseason, early on in games in some sub package, they might try it out to say, hey, now you don't know who's actually playing, who's actually covering, and who's actually coming up as a linebacker. It could be either Bush or Ban. I know what you're saying. Why even keep Vince Williams on the field?
well,
Which
that's
which
my
is true.
question
But what
because
I'm
you
saying
can go ahead.
is that you could, I mean, and maybe they pull off somebody else, but I wouldn't just. I'm trying to think of something really really bold. If I'm going to be the Lance Williams, I've really got to come up with something bold. So I'm going to say that they flirt with that idea, especially since we don't know about their safety depth, of saying, hey, we're going to kind of use Mark Barron as both a linebacker and a safety.
In nickel, I'm fine with that idea if that's what you want to do, especially if it's a heavy nickel where they want to keep those run stuffers on the field. But when you go dime, you've got to get Williams off. I mean, that's where you want to get a player like well, if you put Barron and Bush out there as your inside linebackers, you're going to want even if it's a Cameron Sutton out there as another defensive back who can also be a flex safety. Brian Allen, if he shows out and makes the team this year, he's actually listed as a hybrid cornerback safety. So they actually have some some options, which is something they've lacked in the past, especially at inside linebacker. So I'm not disagreeing with you in
Well,
regards of Bush, Barron, and Williams being on the field at the same time, but I think that's going to be very specific to certain situations.
yes. Well, it's going to be kind of like remember what a lot of people were talking about last year during camp. They were talking about all the Steelers working so much on this dollar defense, on this dollar defense. We're going to see it all the time. Did we see it all the time?
Oh,
No, we didn't. But they used it a lot in camp in order to see what they could do with it. This is just something that I'm thinking that even in what you might sometimes even think is a base package, they might almost go, which would make it almost I got to thinking about this more since someone asked it last week during the burning question is do you ever see the Steelers throwing in kind of like a 4-3 look just to confuse the defense at times where it's almost like a base look. I could see them testing this out in training camp just to see if it's something they could do.
I'm not going to put it past them. I mean, Tomlin has done different things like that in the past in Latrobe, just to kind of see. It's kind of like the let's throw it against the wall and see what sticks, and maybe they try that again this year. But that's not a bad one. Here we go. Let's go special teams. I'm going to say my bold prediction is that Chris Boswell will not just win the battle and be the kicker, but will actually regain his 2017 form. I think that Boswell, I don't know. I hate saying this because I don't know him, but he came off as arrogant after his Pro Bowl year in 2017. I don't, like I said, no inside information here, folks, so don't kill the messenger. But that's just what I thought. And I think last year was a slap in the face. So I think he's going to rebound. That's my bold prediction for special teams. What do you think about that?
Um, I would like to see him rebound it. The biggest thing comes down, I say, is between his ears. That's really the biggest issue that you're going to get for almost any kicker. I mean, Boswell really seemed to be upset whenever anyone mentioned the fact that some questioned him being selected to the Pro Bowl that year because they felt that he was the best situationally because he was given the opportunity to win so many games. But a lot of people did feel that Justin Tucker was still the better kicker. And I think Justin Tucker might have even been all pro that year, even though he wasn't the Pro Bowl kicker.
Yep.
I know last year he was all pro when he wasn't the Pro Bowl kicker. I can't remember if that was 2 years in a row or not. But that's one of those that I don't know if you're right, but it sure would be nice if you were.
Yeah.
That would definitely be a positive thing. So once again, you're going with. I'll do a bold prediction. Wasn't planning on doing special teams off
Doesn't
the top of
have
my
to
head.
be. Doesn't have to be. You can go wherever
No,
you
no,
want.
no. I'll say of your three specialists. No, I'm going to say of your five specialists, including your kick returner and punt returner, they will not be the same five people that they were last year. There will be at least one change. I was going to go so bold to say either the long snapper, punter, or kicker, one of them will be different, but I don't know if they will. But I think if not, something is going to be different out of those five coming into this year.
Okay. Let's try to do one more. You can go wherever you want for this one. I'm gonna go. That's not very bold. I'm just trying to think of something that really, really. I'm gonna go and say that Steven Nelson, just like Mark Barron, really proves his worth as a guy that's athletic, is around the football a lot, and can take it away. And that's something they need opposite Joe Hayden. So I'm looking at the free agents. I think the Barron's going to really do well. Moncrief, I think, is going to have, especially early on in training camp, it's going to be take some time. But I think Steven Nelson's in a position where he's going to be able to show, hey, you all paid me this money. You all made me the highest paid free agent in franchise history. I'm going to show you what I can do. So that's my bold prediction right there about Steven Nelson. What's your last one?
I'm going to say Benny Snell Jr. has at least 5 touchdowns in the preseason.
Okay.
I think he'll average more than one a game because I think he's going to get a good bit of work, and I think he's going to find the end zone.
I was close to saying Benny Snell actually is the RB2 on the roster, the second on the depth chart behind Connor. But I think Jalen Samuels proved way too much last year in his spot playing when Connor got hurt that I don't think that would happen. So I think that they're going to use Benny Snell in certain positions. He might be a short yardage guy. He might be a goal line guy. But I think about it, and I wrote like my prediction article today with James Conner. I said, maybe he'll put up 17 touchdowns total next season. And he scored 13 last year. Rushing was 12. He's not a bad goal line back.
No.
He can punch the ball in. They don't need that. So,
okay. I don't think it matters who's the 2 and who's the 3. I don't think, and where they write it down on Steelers.com on their depth chart, I don't think it matters because the Steelers dress all 3 running backs anyway. And someone might be their number 2 running back, but he might not get as much playing time as their quote unquote number 3 running back if they're using them as a receiver on third and long situations. So I don't think it really matters between Snell and Samuels. Man, that's not easy to say quickly. That who's going to be 2 and 3 because all that matters is that they are 2 and 3 because I don't think it. I don't think the Steelers do the hierarchy that way that it really matters.
I agree with you. I agree. So, a lot of people in the live chat right now are talking about Artie Burns as potential trade. Honestly, to me, that's not that bold. The bold prediction would be Artie Burns rebounds, and someone at Vodka Drinker actually said that he gets his head out of his butt and starts playing football. To me, if Artie Burns were to rebound, he's still not going to be on the field
Exactly.
as the starting cornerback because you don't go out and sign Steven Nelson for that huge money deal. And it's not huge money for the rest of the NFL. It's huge money for the Steelers and then have him sit on the bench. So Artie Burns is still on his rookie deal. He's not getting paid a lot of money, relatively speaking. And so if he does return to form, he's CB3 on the depth chart. He's the third cornerback. That's just the way I think. You agree?
I completely agree that even if he does bounce back, he's buried on the depth chart. If he doesn't bounce back, he's buried so far on the depth chart he doesn't get a helmet if he's still on the roster.
Yeah.
But I mean, he's got to show more. Even if he comes out and shows more than he ever has before with the Steelers, he's still number 3.
Well, and the thing is, though, is if that were to happen, it would be really, really huge for the Steelers because let's be honest, Joe Hayden's injury history is well known. And
Yes.
so if he were able to come back and say, I've regained my swagger and he's playing well, and in the preseason he looks great, even if they're picking on him, he's around the football, he's making tackles, basically the opposite of what he was the last season. Then that's a proven veteran presence, is what Lance always talks about with his 3 Ps: production, pay, and pedigree. He has the pedigree as the number 1 draft pick on his side, so that's good for him to make the team. Would he be traded? They would have to have someone else, say like Justin Lane, really show up and show a ton
Yes.
of promise, because they're not going to dump him or trade him if they feel like Lane's a year off, maybe like a red shirt season. So that'll be fun to watch. And we appreciate all those
Well,
that are commenting.
just to say one more thing about Artie Burns is it's I could see this happening for him. I could see him really bouncing back based on how he has to approach it starting Friday, the first day of practice. Every other season, it was his job and he needed to produce for it.
Right.
Now it's you don't have a job. You've got to really show us something to even have a job. So that's a whole different mindset coming into it, where it's not of it's mine and I need to not screw it up. It's I've got to go out there and earn it. And I think that's a better mindset for him going into training camp.
Yeah, I agree with that 100%. Now, before we go on to our next segment here, I want to take the time to tell all the listeners out there, first and foremost, you should be checking behindthesteelcurtain.com, not just for my writing, but Dave's writing, Brian's writing, and a bunch of other writers that I have on my staff, because in my opinion, it's their one-stop shop for Pittsburgh Steelers news. And even out throughout the offseason, 8 articles a day during the week, 6 on the weekend. That will change when training camp starts. Training camp is the official start of the season. Therefore, you might get 10 articles someday. You might get 12 articles someday. It just all depends on the news cycle. But here's what's coming up that I'm always really excited about. It's going to be happening on Thursday morning. It is the 2019 BehindTheSteelCurtain.com Training Camp Confidential. This is our 5th edition. This is my 5th year, my 5th training camp running the website. And so for me, this is when I get all of my writers together. It's basically about 24 to 48 hours. There might be some straggling articles after that, might go to 72. But what we do is we put together a ton of content, everything from predictions to roster updates to everything, commentary. It's just going to be great because everyone's excited about the team getting there, and that's all they are, is there. You know what I mean? So like they show up, we're going to have a live thread of people, images of people showing up in one way or the other. And that's it. There's no other real news other than maybe a couple soundbite interviews. And so we're going to have a ton of content for you over those 2 days. Please, please, please check it out. But don't just check it out in the morning. You got to come back because it's always going to be refreshing. I had to tell my dad on vacation, Dad, we don't publish every single article at the same time. That would be pointless. It's scheduled throughout the day. So that's coming up this week. The Training Camp Confidential. It is Dave's first Training Camp Confidential, isn't it?
Yes, I started immediately following week 4 of the preseason last year. So I started off the weekend before everything kicked off. So this is all new to me. So hopefully I can give you some good content for this stuff coming up.
Absolutely. It's going to be a lot of fun. I enjoy it. The readers typically enjoy it. And so I hope that you all check back. Like I said, check back regularly. That's coming up this Thursday when the players report from that morning from 5:30 on until probably about 4 or 5 p.m. We'll be churning out articles. Like I said, commentary, prediction pieces, features in long form, you name it, we'll have it. So check that out. All right. Now, what I want to do is before we get into some question and answer stuff with the fine folks in our live chat live on YouTube, you can find us on YouTube by searching BTSC Steelers Radio. My question is, what are you looking for? This doesn't have to just be one thing, Dave. What are some things that you're looking forward to seeing in training camp? That's it. It doesn't have to be predictions or anything like we just did that. What are some things that you're actually looking forward to coming up in training camp?
That is a really easy question for me, and I'm glad I get to go first so I can
I'll
take your
give I'll give you
answer.
the softball pitch. Go ahead.
I cannot wait to see how our franchise quarterback of the future is going to improve
Yes, yes.
starting his second season, how he's going to come out there and show what he's got. I can't wait to get me some Mason Rudolph on the field. I'm hoping I'm hoping he starts week 1 of the preseason and everything. I want to see, because I thought he did great last year. I know some people said he was lackluster. I was at the 4th preseason game, and I thought he was great. I liked when he ran the ball into the end zone and took the pop from someone and went after him, and
Yeah,
that's what I wanted to see. And I can't wait to see him on the field, because Ben's going to get every 3rd day off approximately.
yep.
So I'm really hoping he can get some work in and show what he can do.
Yeah, that would have been top my list. I want to see, and this is something I always look forward to, is I want to see the rookies. I want to hear about the rookies. How are the rookies doing? You think about all this time that we've had, and on the preview, the Steelers preview, which airs on Thursday night here live on YouTube, which is Dave, Brian, and myself, and we previewed every single rookie for an entire like one episode, one per episode. So everyone knows about Devin Bush, but how's Deontay Johnson doing? How's Justin Lane look? What about some of the later round picks? Sutton Smith, everyone's camp darling, and camp hasn't even started yet. Isaiah Buggs, is he Joshua Frazier 2.0 from Alabama? The tight end from Michigan, his name escapes me currently, but at the same time, like is
Zach Gentry.
Zach Gentry going to be an actual player that's going to make the team and get a helmet on game day? These are things that I'm always looking forward to. I always like to hear about the rookies. I never like to see a drafted rookie not make the team. And the Steelers have had a couple of those in recent years. I want to hear them all doing well. That speaks volumes about the scouting department and the potential of the future for the team. So that's what I'm looking for. What else you got?
I am looking forward to seeing the offensive and defensive line in action, because during OTAs, people are wondering, well, why don't we hear anything about Bugs? That's because it's basically 7-on-7 football. You're not hearing anything about the offensive defensive line. I want to see how this offensive line's coming together. Um, as Brian said Thursday night, he wants to see that they have Surratt syndrome.
Oh my
Um,
gosh.
so that really want to see how the line comes together with the new coach, the defensive line, the guys that you don't see in OTAs, get them in pads and can finally hear how they're playing.
That's a really good point. The offensive line. I specifically, I want to see that right tackle spot.
Yeah,
Who's there's something, and Lance did a yeah I said it episode about how it's Matt Filer's job to lose, and I'm not disagreeing with Lance. I agree with that 100%. There's something about Chooks Okorafor that makes me think he's going to win the job.
I've been
Call
calling
me
for that one.
call me crazy. I don't know. There's something about I don't know if it's his experience last year or what we heard about him post draft after he was drafted. I don't know. I just have a feeling that he's going to win that job. It's just crazy. I'm not sure.
Which is funny, because when we did predictions, oh my goodness, this was back when we were previewing players with the draft right off the bat, just after the draft. I made you and Brian do a prediction of who was going to be the starting right tackle, and you guys both went Filer, and I went with Chooks just to be different, because they talk about his athleticism. They talked about if he
Yep.
would have played for Alabama, he would have been a first round, if not a first half of the first round draft pick. All these things. And you know how we like to see guys jump from year 1 to year 2, understanding how everything works. I'm not counting him out, but once again, it's not that big expectation that he has to come in and perform, or else he's going to lose a job. He's got to come out and earn it, and that's always better for players, especially young players.
What else you got? What else you looking forward to?
I just did that one. It's your
Oh,
turn.
oh, my turn. I'm looking at the live chat because I asked the people in the live chat
Yeah.
what they're looking forward to, and no one has really talked
Ooh, there was
what
a good one.
about Terrell Edmonds.
Oh, no, I was going to say where Ron said he wants to see speed and athleticism be evident on defense.
Yeah,
That's a good one.
I guess what I'm looking forward to won't be won't be really known until week 1 of the regular season, and even then it won't be known. I want to know how the Steelers plan on utilizing Javon Hargrave this year, because that's a guy that was unbelievably productive. He had 6.5 sacks last season, and you might know the number off the top of your head. He didn't play that much.
I talked about it last week when on the burning question, because some people really wanted to say about him putting on a push to be Pro Bowl or even All Pro, and I said the biggest problem is he's not on the field enough. It was right around 45% of the snaps last year,
But he had six
even
and a
though they
half
worked
sacks
him
in those snaps. That's not good.
exactly. And they worked, and now the year before they didn't do this, but the last year they did much better of working him in at defensive tackle when they were in sub package, where he would be in, and when you only have two defensive linemen rather than three, he would still stay on the field at times. But every time he does, either Tuitt or Hayward's coming off. So
Yeah.
I like the problem of getting quality players enough snaps. That's a good problem to have.
Absolutely. And like I said, we're not going to know how they're going to utilize him because they're not going to do that in the preseason too much. And then when you get into even week 1, it could be a week by week basis. They could use him specifically against someone like New England more because they want that interior pass rush because that's what he's good at. That's what he's known for. And then they might not play him as much against a team like Cleveland because they want the run stoppers out there. They want the guys that can take up 2 blockers and let the linebackers flow. So, okay, what else are you looking for? Anything else?
I'm looking forward to Felicia being back in the live
Uh,
chat, so we can now say, even though it's belated, we can give her the happy birthday shout
that's
out,
right.
because
Happy birthday, Felicia.
I didn't see her on the live chats this past week. I know she catches the show otherwise if she's not on the live chat, but happy belated birthday. So
Okay, well, and Felicia earlier in the show, I do want to mention she did give $5 via the super chat feature. And if you're a new viewer on YouTube, understand what that means. What that means is that when you go to the bottom of the screen, whether you're on a desktop or if you're on a laptop or if you're on a phone or a a tablet, you type in where it says chat public on the right, there's a little dollar sign. You can click on that dollar sign. You can donate any amount of money. It goes to the show. We're going to be taking that money when we hit a threshold, which we have not hit yet. We obviously will get that money. We could use that towards giveaways and things like that. So she gave us $5 out of her own pocket. We appreciate that as always. I call that our tip jar. So Felicia and someone earlier gave us $1. So at this point in the show, I'm going to read off some of what people are looking forward to. But while I'm doing that, you can feel free to ask some questions. We're going to answer some questions here, and we'll get to that. And Felicia obviously says thank you and donates under $10 in the tip jar. We really appreciate you, Felicia, for all that you do. A couple people are looking forward to. Let's go with Ryan. He says, I want to see if Terrell Edmonds has improved this season. He looked very fast and athletic. That's a good one. Absolutely. We talked about how there's the speed that Ron mentioned. Nicholas says, I'm excited to see which wide receivers will step up to help Juju Smith-Schuster. Absolutely. Snowman, he wants to see the defense improve. Ryan says that the battle for the number 2 tight end spot. I'm not sure who that's with other than Xavier Grimble. I feel like he has that already in the bag. Let's see here. Matt Thomas says he wants us to go to the Friday Night Lights practice at Latrobe High School. I'm not sure. We'll have to see. I have to talk with Brian. He's out of town right now, but I have a question for you, Dave, before we get started with taking questions from the live chat. I did an article today, a Pick Your Poison article, and that's something I've been doing for the website throughout the off season when you want to put out some content, you want to get some discussion going, and so you ask a general question. I did what were the best 3-4 outside linebackers in team history. I've done a bunch of them, period. So today's was because we're getting ready for training camp, we're getting for the players to show up, and this is something I've always felt strongly about for some reason. Would you rather see the Steelers show up and just have no fanfare, no swagger at all, and just show up and be regular old average Joes, to use the dodgeball reference? Or do you want to see the Globo Gym guys rolling in like Brett Kiesel used to come in a tractor? James Harrison drove a fire truck one time. We all know Antonio Brown rolling up in the Rolls Royce with his autograph on it. He rolled up in another old school, like a historic Rolls Royce with a driver. He was dropped in from a helicopter last year. Um, James Harrison for 1 year showed up in a smart car. He barely fit in. Vince Williams last year, hey, came in. He had the Stone Cold Steve Austin vest on, blaring the music, had a championship belt. I want to get you. I don't want to. Did you read the article?
I did not read the article, but I
Okay.
did see the headline. I did
Okay,
see
well,
it
good.
on the
Good.
page.
Because I gave away my thoughts in the article,
Good.
so I want to get your views before I give mine. So, you like that? Is it entertaining, or do you say just show up and go to work?
I always thought it was very entertaining personally, but I have a feeling that they might go out of their way to just show up and go to work this year. Um, because of who the fanfare was over in years past, if you know what I mean. And if that individual who, in case you did not realize it, Lance and I said something, and then Lance came up with his new name we are going to refer to him as, which is Mr. Third and Fifth. That's how he's going to be referred to from now on. On the standard is the standard. That I wouldn't be surprised if they just decide, hey guys, let's show that this is different. So that wouldn't shock me, but they don't have to do that. I'm cool with the Stone Cold entrance. I'm because to me that seemed like he was there to get down to business, if you know what I mean. So I want it to be more about showing that I'm ready to be here to work rather than showing that, hey, everyone, look at me. I want to be special.
Okay. I'm gonna go back into the old time machine now to the very first article that I ever wrote for BehindTheSteelCurtain.com. I was not the editor, I was just a peon volunteer writer at the time. I could probably dig it up. It was right after training camp when I started with the website, and Brett Kiesel, I believe, had just shown up to training camp, and he was in a tractor and all this stuff, and I was like, oh my gosh, this is so annoying to me. I don't want to see you show up in a tractor. I don't want to see you showing up in a if you drive a Rolls Royce every day and you want to roll up in a Rolls Royce, that's fine. If I don't need you being chauffeured in, I don't need a helicopter dropping you in. I don't need a fire truck. To me, it's all pomp and circumstance, and it's a look at me thing. And I don't like that. I don't like that stuff. I've never liked that stuff because as a coach, it was always about the team. It was never about individuals. And I know that these NFL players are individuals and all that stuff. But to me, I've always said in my article stated this, and I got crucified for it on the website in the comment section, which was basically I said, Brett Kiesel, leave the tractor on the farm. Just show up with your pillow, with your suitcase. Hey guys, here to do some work. That's all I got to say. Time to get to work. If that, I guess I look at this 2019 team, if they haven't learned anything, it's that they need to do things different, period. I feel like they need to do things different from the moment they step onto Saint Vincent College campus to the moment they leave to the moment they are getting ready for the Patriots in week 1. They have to do things different because what they've been doing the past few years obviously is not working. So for me, I'm not the fanfare. I'm not the pomp and circumstance.
I have an idea. This
Okay.
is what I would love to see the Steelers do this year. They're going to, as a team, with some coordination of this, meet somewhere else other than training camp together with all their belongings and pack them on trailers and load on the bus and roll up their training camp together as a team on the buses and all step off the buses together. That would be cool.
That would be cool. And that would speak volumes to me. Now I'm looking at the article now. There's a decent amount of comments. Um, I'll get you the results here in a second. But so you're for the show up in style though, right?
No, I say that I don't mind it being a story. It doesn't bother me if you're showing up. I really didn't mind the Vince Williams one. I liked that one. But I want you to show up that you're ready for business, not showing up just to just to say, hey, everybody, look at me.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I mean, it's kind of hard to show up anywhere different without it being, hey, look at me. I mean, Brett Kiesel, that's kind of who he was. That kind of embraced the kind of person that he was to show up in a tractor. But at the same time, I completely understand what you're saying.
Well, you put yourself behind the team. And so if the team is saying, look, guys, this year, and I wouldn't be shocked if Cam Hayward's the one that leads this charge and says, because you never see Ben Roethlisberger show up, ever. Ben goes in the back way where there's no media and none of that. You never see Ben Roethlisberger
Nope.
rolling into the dorms, but you do see Cam, and you do see a lot of the other leaders. And so for that, I would say I would see Cam Hayward saying, "Look, guys," and Vince Williams, he's already said, "I'm going to do an article about it tomorrow." That this year's all business. They're not messing around. They're not doing so. It will be interesting to see. And so far, there's been almost 200 votes on the poll, and I think it's 70 some percent. So I think that a lot of people are on my side. And so
They don't
70%,
like it.
they say just show up and get to work.
I would
Just show
prefer
up.
them not do it. I would. I'm not going to throw a fit about them doing it, but I would prefer them just show up to go to work.
Absolutely. All right, let's see if we have some questions here before we end the show. It's been a good show so far. Snowman asked, who are the player or players that no one's talking about that could make a difference this year? So the way I'm reading that question, Snowman, correct me if I'm wrong, is that not just make the team, but make a difference this year. What do you think, Dave? Who's that player?
Ooh. Well, the thing is, everyone's talking about the rookies. So that's kind of tough. I'm going to say someone who sometimes gets pushed back is and that re-signed with the team this year. I think Tyson Alualu is going to come out and just show that it doesn't matter who the Steelers put out there on that defensive line. It doesn't matter if it's their all-pro Cam Hayward. It doesn't matter if it's the athletic Stephon Tuitt, the Javon Hargrave with the great sacks. It doesn't matter who you put out there. You're going to get no relief regardless. They can rotate them all they want, and it's going to be the same type of quality. So I'm going to say Tyson Alualu.
Okay. I think that's a great one because no one's really talking about him. Um, I'm racking my brain here to think about because in the off season you talk about everybody. We've given you
Sure, we
five.
can do. We've got to talk about everybody.
We have given you 5 podcasts the entire off season. We have talked about everyone. But I'm going to go with, I think Mike Hilton's going to have a bounce back season. I'm not sure if he's going to get a contract this year, but I think he's going to have a big year. I think they're going to figure something out. And a lot of people were all on the Justin Lane train, and they think that Cam Sutton, they basically are viewing Mike Hilton as expendable. And I'm not saying that he would fall into that category that he's not expendable, but at the same time, I think he's going to play better. And I don't think a lot of people are talking about Hilton as much as they are some of the other players. Even Artie Burns is getting more talk than him. So that's what I would say.
It's
Marcus
interesting.
Allen. Marcus Allen was brought up. That's a good
There
one.
you go. That's a good one too. That's a good
I
one
haven't
too.
talked about. No one's talked about him.
I was going to say, going back to the Mike Hilton thing and his possible contract, the more I think about it, the more I don't think it's going to happen because they locked when Big Al was in the same situation. They have him next year at that price. There's nothing that the player can do, and then they can go into it with instead of being the exclusive rights, being the restricted free agent. With Big Al, you signed him earlier because you knew he was going to be your guy for at least 3 seasons. That's when you go ahead and lock him up and do the right thing like the Steelers did. I don't know that they're 100% certain because of the elbow injury last year and it being a little bit of a down year that Hilton's their guy for the next 3 years. Why not just play it out this year, let him prove it, and then say, hey, is he going to be our guy for the next 3 years? So
that's a very sticky contract issue and negotiation that will have to go on. If he gets a deal, it's going to be on the Steelers' terms. It's going to be a very team-friendly deal. It's not going to be comparable to the other slot cornerbacks getting big money. So it's going to be really interesting to see. All right, Nicholas asks, who do you think will be the main number 2 running back this year? Obviously, it would be between Benny Snell Jr., Jalen Samuels, who I think is the leader in the clubhouse, or Frank Webb. It's not. What is his first name?
You've used the wrong name so many times. I'm not sure if it's Frank or if it's Ralph. I'm not
It's
sure which
Ralph
one it
Webb.
really is. Is it? I
Is
don't
it?
know because you've called it the wrong one so many times. It's
I
either Frank or
I think
Ralph.
it's Frank. I think it's actually Frank.
Mm,
Someone in
well,
the live chat, look it up and let us know. But it's Webb. His last
yes,
name is Webb.
yes, I'll be Frank, and don't forget because this was something. It went out as an article that I do in the off season where I just compile some statistics tweets. Trey Edmonds has 9 NFL carries when he was with the New Orleans Saints. So he has more NFL carries right now than Benny Snell Jr. And technically has more NFL carries than Roosevelt Nix. So is he the other guy that can that because they brought him up off the practice squad when James Conner was injured, and they kept 4 for the last week of the season.
Yeah.
Um, I I still don't know. I honestly, it's going to be. I think it's what I said earlier that it's going to be Samuels and Snell, and I don't know that they have to really define which one's going to be number 2 because I think it could be very flux, even week to week, based on the defense that they're going against.
Yeah. It's Jalen Samuels.
Yeah,
Because he has the experience, because he put
mhm.
up 142 against New England last year. He's versatile.
Which I was there to watch.
Yeah.
When it was fantastic.
It had to be awesome, yeah. And Desmond writes that it is Ralph Webb,
It's
not
Ralph.
Frank. It's not him. It's not Frank. I was so,
Well, hey, you know what would be great is if we could see Ralph Webb get into the touchdown zone in the in the
oh my god.
preseason.
You know, I said this in the live chat. Now, those that were in the live chat during last week when I was on vacation, obviously I'm still taking care of the back end stuff of the podcast. I just wasn't hosting. And so I would tune in because I'm waiting to see when they're finished. And I would chime in and say, like, make some snide comments because that's actually what I do. Anyways, I would say I got an email. I want to tell the story. Brian's not here to hear it, but I got an email from a listener of our podcast that said I have a great T-shirt idea, and it's you could basically do it like the auto zone, get in the zone, touchdown zone, and I thought that was awesome. But it's just such an inside joke. Like I don't feel like that could ever be a T-shirt that I could sell on the site because who's going to get it? I mean, unless you listen to our podcast and listen to that one podcast where Brian completely had a brain fart, forgot the end zone turn, instead touchdowns.
I'll be honest with you. You didn't have to listen to just that one podcast because I'm sure we're going to bring it up every podcast until at least week 1.
Yeah, it's touchdowns. Get in the zone, touchdown zone. So there you go.
I mean, how long have we been talking about Frank Webb or Ralph Webb, whichever one he is?
Yeah.
So we don't let these things die easy.
No,
So I
absolutely. You
can
hate
see how.
Deontay Johnson still, so there you go.
Yeah.
All right, so Snowman brings up another question. He says, "Resign Mike Tomlin before or after the season?" So he's assuming that you are going to resign him. Do you do it before or after the season?
I don't care. It really doesn't. But I mean, it doesn't bother me. I know Brian. We addressed this on Thursday, and he said about it not being the distraction that or if not, people are going to continually ask him about it, and of course, he's not going to answer the question, but he'll continually have to not answer the question. So it would be nice to just get the distraction out of the way, but if they don't do it, it's going to be an ongoing question. If they do it, people are going to wonder why they went ahead and did it after the team didn't make the playoffs last year, but then it'll be over with. So I'd rather it be over with faster.
I think it's going to happen in training camp. Personally, I think they'll get things figured out. And remember, a coaching contract has no impact on the team's salary cap whatsoever. So they could give him a 2-year extension, and if they don't like what he does this year, they can fire him. And anything that they owe him is between the organization and Tomlin. It has no impact or bearing on dead money, cap space, or anything like that. I don't understand why people. I mean, yeah, I get why you care because if they give him that extension, but if they give him that extension, this team goes 3-13 and they miss the playoffs and they fire him, then they can fire him. They have that right. So keep that in the back of your mind too. So although I do understand the significance of a contract extension, it's not as significant as say a player's contract extension. So all right, Dave, anything else for the good of the order before we call it a show?
No, I'm so glad that every now we're into each one of these podcasts where we're saying the next time we join you, that's
Yeah.
that's fantastic. I just couldn't I can't get over how long this off season has been and that it's finally done. When I missed the podcast for 2 straight weeks because I was in Florida with my kids at Disney World, that seems like forever ago. And that was still 2 months after the Steelers' last game. So, it's really been a long off season that I this is gonna be so nice to actually see football being played.
Well, and what's crazy here is that, I believe the Steelers' first preseason game is the 9th of August. Am I correct there? Or is that early?
If that's the Friday, yep,
That's
the
yeah.
9th is a Friday, yes, that's their
So
first one against
they
Tampa.
report on the 25th. They have 2 weeks to
2
prepare
weeks.
before they actually have their first preseason game. So
Yep,
shoot, we're gonna have actual football to break down. It's not gonna be real football. I understand that, but we'll be looking at depth charts, stuff like that, camp battles. It's it's coming on quick. I
and for you listeners out there, that's a nationally televised game on NFL Network. Both of
With
their
their
home games
home
are.
games, yeah.
And then week 3 is on Sunday Night Football, so the first 3 games are all nationally televised games. So, get out there and watch, Steeler fans.
Yeah, I hate the preseason, because A, it's like a tease, but B, it means that I'm closer to going back to work, which is not fun. So, okay. So with that said, remember this Thursday, the Steelers BTSE 2019 Training Camp Confidential will be unveiled. Remember, it's not just one day; it's like 2 to 3 days of content. So check it out. It's going to be worth your eyeballs checking it out. Everyone's going to be writing. It's going to be great. And then obviously check out all our podcasts. Tomorrow night, Dave will be hosting The Hangover for Brian. And then I will be back on Wednesday. Burning Question is going to be co-hosted by DK Pittsburgh Sports Chris Carter. He's going to be joining me, and he's going to be talking about some Steelers football. He's doing a great job covering it with them. It'll be great to catch up with an old friend. He still is a friend of mine. So we'll be on Wednesday night, and then Thursday, Dave and I will be back. Maybe Tony will join us. I'm not sure about that just yet. And that'll be for the Steelers preview. So we got a full slate. Thursday, we'll be able to talk about who showed up in style and who showed up all business. And maybe, who knows? We'll see. News, Dave. We have news to talk about. We should be excited. So, with that being said, let's send it off as Lance always does. Remember, tune in, tell a friend, and subscribe. We'll see you next week for another episode of The Standard is the Standard.